trying to learn something new, the most important questions are the new thing and the old thing. How are they the same? How are they different? Think about it this way. If you have a camera and you have your grandmother is like 90 years old, right? And she has an old camera, you know, the kind where you have to wind it up, right? Your grandmother has this really old camera, and for her birthday, you want to buy her a new camera. Well, how are you going to teach her how to use the new camera? Compare it with the old camera. In the old camera, this is the button that you press to take a picture. In the new camera, it's the same thing. You push this button, right? But in the old camera, you have to open it and take out the film. In the new camera, don't do that. Don't open it, right? In the new camera, the pictures go onto the computer. And then you have to explain to her what a computer is, right? So there are a lot of things where if there's something new and something old, you learn it simply by comparing them. These things are the same. These are different. And you learn then the things that are different. Chinese and English, same thing. The stuff that's the same, use it. The stuff that's different, that's what you need to understand better. So, how do you know what's the same and what's different? Learn Chinese first. So, 中文的问法有问题吗？ What do you think is easier for you to learn? Is it easier for you to learn how Chinese works or how English works? Chinese, right? So start with that. If you really understand Chinese, you can learn any other language. If you don't understand Chinese, you can't learn anything else. So, we have the grammar problems. This is one of the biggest ones. It also helps us to understand this problem. Right? So, English is boring or English is bored. You are boring or you are bored. How do you know the right answer? You can try it. So, how do you know which one is right? English is boring or bored? Boring. Why? I don't mean why like English has too many words. You know, French is more exciting. I don't mean that. I mean, why is it ing? Why boring? Okay. What if you say English is boring, what's the subject? Then what's the subject? Well, we're talking now about a subject. The subject will always be a noun. So, in this one, English is the subject. But what if we say English is bored? What does that mean? Why doesn't it make sense?
Because English is not that.
Aha. But English doesn't care if you're a person or a thing. I've heard that answer a lot. Bored is for people, boring is for things. Right? 你都有听过吗？对不对？ Right? Because in English, that's not a grammar question. This has nothing to do with a person or a thing. In Chinese, that's one of the things you have to ask. 是人还是东西? 如果是东西, it can't be the subject, right? 一定有人. But in English, that's not our question. In English, what we care about is who or what does the action. We have this idea of the action, the verb. So, who or what does the action, and then to what? So, if you can say, English bores me, then English is what is boring. English is boring me, right? But, can I bore English? I can bore the wall, right? Bore has different meanings. Obviously, I'm boring you. Bore has different meanings. One of them is to put a hole in something, right? So I can bore something. Sure, the wall is bored, no problem. Bore just means you make a hole in it, okay? That's what the word comes from. So I can bore the wall. Can I put a hole in English? That doesn't make sense. So it's a meaning problem, right? This part here then has nothing to do with the grammar. So when you say English can't be bored, it is the right answer, but the reason why has to be right. So we don't do this. One more thing then. If English can't be bored, but I can say, I don't know your names, so if any of you is called Tom, I'm not picking on you, all right? If I say Tom is bored, what does it really mean? Where does Tom go in this idea? Is Tom here or here? So as I put this one here, 我找你们，你被我找, right? It's the same meaning, but we can use this idea, this passive. Chinese doesn't like to do it a lot, but in English we do it all the time. Pretty much every time you see this, that's what it is. I bore Tom. I am boring, Tom is bored, right? That's how this pattern works. So when we look at the question, the right question in English, what or who is doing the action? What is it happening to? Then when we have this part here, this ED, Tom is bored, it means that Tom belongs here. He's not the one doing it, right? English bores Tom, I bore Tom, but Tom is the one bored, okay? Again, if we ask the right question, then we can get a better understanding of how it all works. Now, this goes into all of the other parts of our language when we talk about, the tenses. I am studying, I have studied. It all goes together because there's these relationships between how these different things work. So, from here, I think I'm going to call him Tom just for fun. All right. From here, can you see any other questions that we could get to? If we can remember and understand how the English patterns work, then coming from Chinese, we can't use a topic. 我的哥哥他住在加拿大. In English, my brother lives. I cannot say my brother, he lives. Okay, that's one thing. In English, there isn't always a person. 关门，有人关门. The door closes, nobody closes the door closes itself, right? If we can stop those Chinese patterns when we come into English, and we focus on the English issues, where can we go from here? What comes next? What can we relate to this? Right? Have you ever talked to a child who asks questions? Or when you were a child, do you remember? Why is the sky blue? Okay, in Taiwan it's usually gray, but sometimes it's blue, right? Why is the sky blue? And then your father doesn't have time, so he says, because the water is blue, right? So what's the next question? Why is the water blue, right? That's how children think. They do this naturally. They make a connection from one sentence, one question to the next. Do the same thing. What's the next connection we can make here? Ask something that relates. What is another one of the hard parts of English grammar? Do you understand the difference between I eat and I am eating? He went to school. He has gone to school. He had gone to school. He has been going to school. 这个你们都了解吗？都没问题。If you can understand it, you should teach English. So, can we relate that to this? Is there something here that we can connect with those questions? What about I like to study or I like studying? 哪一个是对？ I enjoy to study, I enjoy studying. I need to study, I need studying. I have to study, I have studying. You know all the answers? 所以可以问吗? Right? You know English has verb tenses, right? 有回来时，有现在时，有过去时, right? You have the future, the present, and the past. Okay. If that's all we have, it's easy. Right now, present. Before now, past. After now, future. Right? Well, that was easy. 有没有问题? Okay, so what about the other parts? What about the other parts? I study. I am studying. I have studied. Can you compare these to Chinese at all? So, what's this idea in Chinese?
正在读书。
我在, right? 我在 study 看书还是什么? All right?
我已经